it was an apple. That is wrong. Okay? So she wins an apple. They say one apple a day keeps a doctor away, right? So she wins an apple because she's made more than 10 contacts. We all put our hands together for her.
Thank you.
Lakini, tutahitaji auditors, eh? Just to confirm that you have made 10 contacts. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's important that we know that the 2 skills that you need today in order for you to move on to the next level anywhere in life are networking and learning. Learning skill and networking skill are the 2 skills that we need to propel us onto the next level. So any moment now, the guest of honor will be here. Delighted that our media partner Mwananchi is in the house. Any moment tutaanza ratiba yetu. Please, let's continue to network, make new contacts. I've introduced a few people that we have in the house. Bado tuna muda wa kunetwork. There's still tea outside and coffee. Karibuni sana. DJ. DJ. Distinguished delegates, as we are about to start the program. Number two, kubaliane one or two things. We all know that Vodacom is commemorating 25 years this year. Kwa hiyo when I say later on, miaka 25 ya Vodacom, can we all respond tupo nawe tena na tena? Can we try that? Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Naona hiyo tena na tena eh? Can we do that? Can we do that? 25 ya Vodacom. Safi. But also nikisema Vodacom tunasema pamoja. Vodacom. Absolutely. Nashukuru sana. This is the most exciting. Any moment now the minister will be here. Karibuni sana. DJ. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Tupo nawe tena na tena. Let's do this again. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Tunavyosema tena na tena, mjue Vodacom iko na sisi mpaka kwenye lunch pia. Kwa tena na tena, tutaendelea kula, tutaendelea ku network. So once again, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the guest of honor will be here. But before he comes, and since we have 10 minutes, I think it's candid, and you'll all agree with me, that I bring onto the stage Zuwaina Farah and Poki to unpack. There's something that transpired 2 weeks ago, and again, as we're commemorating, as we're witnessing the launch of the ESG report, it is always good to know what is ahead of us. So let's put our hands together for Zuwaina Farah and Mpoki as they come onto the stage to unpack the bigger picture of what lies ahead of us. Number Mike, tafadhali tuwaletea hapa mbele. We'll do this about 10 minutes and then tutaenda kumpokea the guest of honor. Karibu sana.
Yes, thank you, Austin. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you here today. Very lovely faces from the private sector, but also government and civil society. As Austin said, Mwananchi Communications Limited and Vodacom Tanzania. First and foremost, my name is Mpoki Thompson. I'm the executive editor for Mwananchi Communications Limited. Mwananchi, as a media company, we partnered with Vodacom. We have partnered with them over the years, but this year is a bit more intentional in driving impact. And 2 weeks ago, we had a virtual conversation which focused on purposeful collaboration and what that means for the ESG, Tanzania driving ESG, but the key players who will make that possible. So Zuwaina, we are going to unpack a little bit the conversation. We did cover it on social media and online platforms and print, but I think it is important for the audience here today to get an in-depth understanding of what the virtual conversation was about and what its aim was. And moving forward, what are we going to see more in the ESG conversation? So tell us a little bit about Vodacom's purpose when it comes to ESG and sustainability.
Thank you, Mpoki. Thank you, Mpoki. Am I audible? Yes? I'm on, okay. So Vodacom's purpose. Vodacom's purpose is actually in 3 pillars. First is empowering people. Second is protecting the planet. And then third is around maintaining trust. We believe that these 3 pillars, and I'll unpack in a few, they speak to our core values, but also our purpose just in general. Each one of them is pertinent in driving development in Tanzania, but across Africa, across the globe as well. Without a healthier planet, without a greener planet, nothing that we do or the customers that we want to serve, the communities that we want to support will not be here in a few years to come if we do not take care of our planet. If we want to drive digital adoption, if we want to see the digital Tanzania that we are working on as a nation, then the backbone of that, which is technology, it's about empowering people. You have to have the right skill set, you have to have the right access, that means tower coverage, connectivity, but also devices, affordable devices. And during the webinar, we had partners that we have worked with over the last 25 years. We had audiences that we engaged with on a regular basis. But we also had the government, which was represented by, I think it was a deputy commissioner for planning. And a lot was said, but I will focus more on the big takes and the big bets that everyone wanted to share. So we had Santina Benson from CEO Roundtable. We had Justice Rutenge from Foundation for Civil Society, and we had a representative from the government, myself, and Mpoki and Prudence were moderating the sessions. One thing echoed across all conversations was that no single entity can drive development. All of us have to come together. It needs to be collective effort. There needs to be collaboration. And I think that was the core messaging that really was picked from all of them. But also on the big bets, I think we focused more on policy frameworks and regulatory frameworks and how sometimes regulatory precedes innovation. And how do we work together with the private sector as well as the government to build these policies so that we're co-creating a pro-growth policy framework. And I think the biggest takeaway was that this is doable. We've seen it happen. Over the years, we've worked closely with government, with key stakeholders to shape policies that drive innovation and growth in Tanzania. And I think the uptake is there. It is just that we need us as private sector, but as well as government, to come together more frequently so that we look at the overall 2050 vision and say that how do we get there and how do we shape it now to get there?
Okay, so I think everyone would agree that oftentimes whenever we have these conversations between private sector and government, people want to see beyond dialogue, you know, from dialogue to action. In 5 years to come, the SDGs, the 2030 milestone, we are going to be there. But when you do an analysis of where we are at as far as achieving the SDGs, it's not quite positive. Now, we're talking about DIRA 2050. How confident are you that as far as ESG is concerned, Tanzania will be a bit more intentional in achieving the goals so that we may not just be convening for dialogue, but we may see more tangible results?
We're having a dialogue today. So it's a tough question. I always say this as well, dialogues are nice, but it's the implementation and the action that comes after that's more important. And I think if I look at many organizations in the private sector that are now releasing their sustainability reports, that in itself is action. Because the more stories we tell, the more work that we do, the more impact we share with others, it drives more collaboration. Today, if we speak about what we do in the education sector, I'm sure someone in the room here would say, we do the same, and we look at how we can come together to support that so that it looks at targeting more people. And this ties back to my first sentence, no one single entity can drive development. But action is beyond just doing. One comment that came out during the webinar as well is looking beyond competition. Yes. Right? And then the other was that how do you differentiate between publicity and impact? And I think that's very important in what we do. And in that sense, I would say being intentional with how we want to reach people and how we want to drive development is very important. So yeah, it's a tricky area, but it's doable.
Absolutely, and one of the parts that we looked at when we were having the webinar was the role of the youth. We want to see them being involved as much as possible when it comes to these important decisions that affect their future. Can you tell us, how does Vodacom factor in youth sentiments when you're strategizing about ESG and even beyond? How important are they?
I would say, first and foremost, that is the biggest customer base. You have over 70% of our population being youth. But also, how are we intentional about it? We offer products and services that cater to youth. We, on the foundation side, we look at programs that can empower youth. We look at how our sustainable business work also looks into empowering youth. We have programs such as the Vodacom Digital Accelerator that looks at empowering startups. We have programs such as Code Like a Girl that looks at equipping and training young girls to code so that they are able to, one, understand that there is a role for women in the tech industry or in the STEM areas, but also understand that they can achieve that in their journeys, in their career journeys beyond high school. We do have products and services such as Vibe, which looks at affordable bundles, voice and data, but over and beyond that, it gives them zero-rated platforms such as the AWS, Amazon Web Services, which has training skills and a set of modules that would be able to train them on things like data science, on skills that are needed in today's world. But last year as well, in partnership with the University of Dar es Salaam, we launched our cybersecurity club. Cybersecurity is becoming a big threat in the digital world that we are already in, but also going to. And training or the youth with regards to cybersecurity, but also them understanding there is a career in that sector, is also empowering youth. Last but not least, I think change is incremental. So we might look at 7 startups that we are supporting, or we might look at 100 members of the cybersecurity club, but this trickles. They go out and they encourage others to participate. Today, when we started with Code Like a Girl, we were looking at 250, 300 girls trained per year. Now we're looking at 700 plus girls that are being trained per year. Some of them have gone to build their own websites, become their own entrepreneurs, share information through apps that they have built. So that is something that is powerful in its own nature, but it caters to the fact that we want the youth to have the right skill set, to have ambition, and also be part of the digital era that we are building.
Okay, now we've talked about the youth. I want us to focus now on those who live in the interior, because oftentimes when we talk about the ESG and all these other initiatives that are being undertaken by companies, impact matters. Now, how does Vodacom ensure that a Tanzanian who lives, in the outcasts of this urban setting gets to understand what ESG is all about and how it impacts their future? So how do you go about that?
First things first is I would first like to thank our partners in the room, UCSAF, Universal Communication Service Access Fund. Rural connectivity is very important, and that's how we reach rural communities. That's number one, through connectivity, whether it's data, voice, or SMS. Second is device financing. We have a plan where people can afford devices through a plan from as little as 850 shillings per day. That ensures that you do not reach deep in your pocket, take out everything that you have to spend on a device so that you can connect to a digital world. But on our community work and foundation side as well, we've zero-rated platforms. Earlier this year, we entered a partnership with Tanzania Institute of Education to zero-rate their Mewaka platform, which looks at giving resources to teachers in 184 teachers' development centers. And with the new curriculum, these resources will look at training the teachers to become, 1, digital savvy, 2, also impart knowledge on digital skills to the students that they teach. So there are many various ways where we can work and reach rural communities, zero-rating platforms, zero-rating websites, device affordability, as well as rural connectivity, and ensuring that we invest to get everyone online.
Yes, we've talked about partnerships and how it is important to ensure that the ESG goal is met. You've partnered with some companies within the financial institutions, for example, Stanbic Bank and the rest. Can you tell us about what informs your partnership approach, and how do you see partnering with other players from different sectors in supporting the ESG? What does that look like?
Thank you, Mpoki. First things first is that our strategies align. We look at empowering people, protecting the planet, and maintaining trust. But under those 3 pillars, there are quite a few. So for example, if I look at empowering people, there is an aspect of closing the digital divide, supporting communities. And when we talk about supporting community, it's also about disaster readiness, disaster relief, and showing up when communities actually need you. There is an aspect of connectivity as well, and ensuring that everyone gets online. When we look at the trust pillar, it's about making sure that our customers are protected. And we drive campaigns on fraud awareness, on data protection, on cybersecurity, and that is part of connecting our customers and also protecting our customers. So when we look at partners that do come to us or we go to them, it is because, 1, strategies align. Second is that we put the people first. It's really about how we want this program or this project to actually impact people's lives, to change their lives, to improve their lives. I think one thing that's very evident in our reports and our impact assessment as well, it's the people first. we don't talk about how many people we have registered on our platform. If we talk about...
I really
so disrespectful.
That one. Thank you so much. Please, let's give them a big round of applause. To stand up, put our hands together. Why is this chair bent? Ooh. All right. So any moment now, Tamlet and Dani, so we start our program. Thank you very much for your patience. He's here now. So I hope we've picked one or two things. Lakini kudos once again to Vodacom Tanzania and Mwananchi. So may I request all of us to please stand up as the guest of honor is coming into the room. Number wote tusimame. DJ, naomba some good background music wakati mgeni rasmi anaingia. Let's put our hands together for Honorable Kitila Mkumbo. He's with us. Asante, please take your seats. Mheshimiwa Waziri, karibu sana. Naomba once again tumpigie makofi mengi sana mgeni wetu rasmi this morning. This is none other but Honorable Professor Kitila Mkumbo, waziri wetu ambaye anaangalia masuala ya planning na investment. We are very honored to have you with us this morning. I would like to yet recognize next to you Mr. Philip Besimire, the CEO of Vodacom Tanzania. A big round of applause is our host this morning. Asante sana. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, kushoto kwako amekaa Bi Rosalind Mndolwa Moria. Yeye ni CEO wa Mwananchi Communication, lakini ni media partner mkubwa sana wa Vodacom Tanzania. Can we also recognize her presence by a round of applause? Lakini pia kwenye meza amekaa Bwana Victor Mushi. Yeye ni executive editor digital innovation from Mwananchi Media Group. Nashukuru sana, asante sana. Na on the far right amekaa Bwana Othumani Mlinga, director wa ICT. Yeah? Nashukuru sana, lakini mgeni rasmi naomba utambue in this presence we have the Vodacom management and Vodacom team, lakini pia tuna team kutoka Mwananchi. We have the CEO roundtable very well represented here, lakini pia partners wetu kutoka Umoja wa Mataifa, tunao UNDP, tunao UNICEF, tutaweza kuwafahamu, lakini from the private sector tunao KPMG, tunao GGM, na banking sector is also very well represented. Tuna NGOs, tuna banks, tuna government agencies. UCSAF wako hapa, delighted to have them with us. Lakini Vodacom partners katika kutekeleza magoli yao ESG, ambayo leo mgeni rasmi you will lead us to witness the launch of the report ya Tanzania. We have waandishi wa habari, mabibi na mabwana. Nikisema Vodacom tunasema pamoja tunaweza. Vodacom. Mgeni rasmi anaweza kashtuka tujawapa chai asubuhi. We can do better than that. Vodacom. Lakini pia mgeni rasmi, you must have seen, sababu najua unatumia Vodacom, kwamba tunatimiza miaka 25 mwaka huu, na tuna tagline that is associated with that. When I say miaka 25 ya Vodacom, tunasema tupo nawe tena na tena. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, umekuja kutuongoza katika uzinduzi wa ESG Country Report for Vodacom Tanzania. Kwa wale ambao hatufahamu, ESG is abbreviated for Environmental, Social and Governance. Katika mifano yote ambayo naweza kutoa, Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, Vodacom na unafahamu kwamba wana play major role kwa hapa Tanzania and beyond kwenye masuala ya climate and climate change. Lakini pia wafanyakazi wa Vodacom, if you look on anyone in this room that is smiling, anatokea Vodacom. Naomba tujipigie makofi basi Vodacom. So looking onto the team, lakini kuangalia pia jamii ambayo tunatumia Vodacom, tunafuraha. So that's the social aspect of it. And when it comes to the aspects of governance, tunafahamu Vodacom wameendelea kuchukua tuzo nyingi sana kwa sababu masuala ya compliance, lakini policies pia na vitu kama hivyo wanavizingatia vizuri sana. When we speak of ESG, pia tunaongelea impact investment au sustainable investment au responsible investment, which we are celebrating today. Mgeni rasmi ni ruhusu sasa nimkaribishe Bi Rosalind Mdolo Moria, Mwananchi Communication CEO, aje atupe neno la ukaribisho. Neno lake la ukaribisho litafuatwa na safari ya Vodacom mpaka hapa tulipofika itakayoletwa na Bi Zuena Farah. Karibu Bi Rosalind. Naomba tumpigie makofi as she comes to the podium.
Asante sana Austin. Habari za asubuhi mabibi na mabwana. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, Honorable Professor Kitila Mkumbo, Philip, my brother, Vodacom CEO, participants from the civil society, private sector, colleagues, media partners, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of Mwananchi Communications Limited, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this ESG breakfast, hosted in partnership with Vodacom Tanzania, under the theme Connecting for Good, People, Planet, Possibilities. Today is a landmark moment. We are here not only to launch Vodacom's ESG report, a testament to responsible leadership under Philip, but also to look ahead. This event is part of a wider journey towards Tanzania's Development Vision 2050, which calls for bold leadership, inclusive partnerships, and a shared sense of responsibility for the future of our nation. At Mwananchi Communications Limited, our purpose is empowering the nation. As part of the Aga Khan Development Network, we believe that media is not simply a chronicler of events. In Vision 2050, media is entrusted with a greater mandate to inform and inspire citizens, to convene dialogue across government, business, and society, and to hold leaders accountable, and also to nurture a culture of transparency, innovation, and responsibility. In short, media is both the mirror and the compass of national progress. This is why Vodacom's ESG pillars resonate so strongly with our own mission and with the goals of Vision 2050. Empowering people by enabling access, amplifying voices, and building a skilled, inclusive, and future-ready workforce. Protecting the planet by embedding sustainability and raising awareness that inspires behavioral change at scale. Maintaining trust by grounding our leadership in integrity, credibility, and transparency, which are all foundations of a resilient society. Later this morning, during the Foresight Fireside Chat, we will take this conversation deeper, asking how inclusive connectivity, purpose-led collaboration, and digital innovation can strengthen Tanzania's competitiveness, safeguard our environment, and empower our people on the road to 2050. This is the real power of partnerships. What no single institution can achieve alone, together we can. So as we begin, let us remember the wisdom, safari ni hatua. A journey is made step by step. Each choice we make today, each partnership we build, is one more step towards an inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous Tanzania. Thank you very, very much, Vodacom Tanzania, for your leadership. And thank you all for being part of this dialogue. Karibuni sana.
Asante sana, naomba tumpigie tena makofi. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom, Tupo nawe tena na tena. Miaka 25 ya Vodacom. Asante sana, Rosalind, for those great welcoming remarks. We all feel welcomed. Mgeni rasmi naomba sasa nimlete Bi Zuweina Farah. Yeye ni Director wa External Affairs. Hapa ndio lugha inaniangusha kwamba Kiingereza ni External Affairs, lakini Kiswahili ni mkurugenzi wa mahusiano na mawasiliano ya nje. Let's give a big round of applause as she comes to unpack and tell us why exactly we are here this morning. Karibu sana, Zuweina.
Thank you very much, Austin. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, leaders in the room, invited guests, and my colleagues as well, and media in the room. A very good morning to you all. So I was asked to give a presentation on our ESG report and why we're here. But I'll start off with a little bit around the story on why we're here. And then after that, I'll play a short video, which gives us a snapshot of some of our achievements and overall why we report and why we do what we do. So, Professor Kitila and I have had the privilege of working together many times. And every time I would bump into him, I would find him always with a book. And this is 2 to 3 years ago. And every time I find him with his book, I would ask him, why? Why this book? Where are we going? And whatnot. Sometimes he would look at books that are very scary, talking about how technology is advancing and how fast it's evolving and whether we are prepared for it. And he would go on and on and on and on about it. And here I am, I keep telling myself, I said, God, I feel like we are so detached with the youth that is out there that's using technology way more faster than we do on a daily basis. And we often talk about leadership in the age of swipes and cancel culture, and an era where policies don't wait for parliamentary debate. They are judged instantly in the time it takes someone to swipe left. And if the public doesn't like your idea, they don't just oppose it. They cancel it faster than a tweet would go viral. And honestly, even I can't keep up with the pace of technology. I know most of us in this room have used ChatGPT or Gen AI. I've actually given my AI bot a name. It's a she, but she's called Suarez. Because like the footballer, she's a brilliant but controversial genius. On her best day, she digs in the most obscure corners of the internet and delivers pure brilliance. And the kind of insight that would make you say, this is why AI can change the world. But on other days, she delivers something so unexpected, you just shake your head and say, well, that's Suarez being Suarez. For those of you in the room that understand football, love football, you know what I mean. And that's the reality of our world today, brilliance and disruption, often at the same time. And which is why Vodacom takes ESG reporting so seriously. It's not about ticking boxes, it's about grounding our leadership in data, in accountability, and in trust. Because in an age where swipes can build or break reputations overnight, we have to show the real impact of connectivity, not just towers and cables, but how that connectivity translates into livelihoods, inclusion, and Tanzania's long-term vision. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, if I may, I'd like to play a short video before I hand back over to Austin for the next program. Okay, so as it's coming, the video highlights some of our achievements over the last 12 months, which is the report highlighting our 2024 to 2025 as of March 31st, and also talks on our purpose and why we do. Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa, in closing remarks, Tanzania's Vision 2050 is about prosperity through inclusion, innovation, and sustainability. And as the video says, every initiative of Vodacom Tanzania is our promise to Tanzania. Asante sana.
Nashukuru sana Zuena kwa kutuambia kwa nini tuko hapa asubuhi hii ya leo. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, tabasamu na unavyotingisha kichwa, naamini kabisa uko hapa. Naomba tumpigie tena makofi mgeni rasmi. Wasiwasi wangu mkubwa tu ni kwamba watu wametoa macho sana, sasa sijui tunawaacha au tuko pamoja. Jamani, we are leaving no one behind. Ndio maana UN is here to attest that we are leaving no one behind as we celebrate the 25 years of Vodacom Tanzania. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, yupo mwanadada anaitwa Zoe. Zoe ni Chief Purpose Officer kwenye kampuni inaitwa PZG. Yeye atakuja kukuuliza maswali machache, wewe pamoja na kaka yangu Philip, ili mtuambie Tanzania ya baadaye. Tanzania ya baadaye ipoje kwenye upande wa connectivity, yaani uunganishwaji, collaborations, yaani ushirikiano, na competitiveness, yaani ushindani. Ninayo heshima sasa kumkaribisha Zoe, alafu yeye atakukaribisha wewe mheshimiwa mgeni wetu rasmi pamoja na Philip kwenye mazungumzo ya muda mfupi, na mkishamaliza mazungumzo nitakuomba sasa utuzindulie ripoti kwa kukata utepe. Utaionyesha kwa washiriki, tutatoa tuzo kwa baadhi ya watu ambao tunashirikiana nao Vodacom Tanzania, picha za pamoja, na tutakuwa tumefikia tamati ya siku yetu ya leo. As she comes onto the stage, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to Miss Zoe. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Austin. Mheshimiwa Mkumbo, leo tuko hapa, imenikumbusha kitu kimoja. Kuna one author alisema kwamba the future is not something you enter, it's something you create. Tanzania, in the last 2 years, we have consulted, we have thought, we have crafted the Tanzania that we want to see by 2050. We have the DIRA 2050, which is our collective aspiration. But how do we get there? You know, today, I am going to call onto the stage 2 Pan-African visionaries who are going to explore purpose-led collaborations. How does inclusive development look like so that when 2050 gets here, the collective aspiration that we all are looking forward to, which is a $1 trillion economy, a 7,000 GDP for all of us. I hope my children will be okay with making $7,000, you know, in 1 year by the year 2050. And also, how do we come together as the public, as the private, but also the philanthropic, which for most times it's been called the other sector. But then how do we all come together to realize the Tanzania that we want? Without much further ado, I'd like to call to the stage Mr. Philip Besimire, the MD of Vodacom Tanzania. A round of applause as he makes his way. Thank you. Sit to the right, far right. Thank you. I'd also like to call His Excellency Mr. Mkumbo, the Minister of State. Karibu sana. A round of applause as he makes his way. Please sit at the center. Mr. Mkumbo, just to start with, so I have 5 minutes for your reflections, and then 5 minutes for Philip's reflections, and then we'll do 5 minutes of synergizing your thoughts. Just to start, when you read the TDV 2050, you realize that digitalization is not only its goal for, but it's also a driver. From a policy perspective, now we're bringing it down. How are you going to ensure that these two aspects enable not just a digital economy, but also society members that are digitally empowered? I'm saying this because, let's say when you look at the American economy, we have the likes of, Elon Musk, very strong people, very, they have a big wealth, big turnover. When we say a $1,000 trillion economy by 2050, we don't want to have a few people that have privileged the power of, digitalization, forgetting that everyday member of the society. So how are you bridging these two? How are you bringing digitalization to become a driver, but also, that strategic, it's actually as a driver, but also a goal. The goal is digitally empowered members of the society, and digitalization will really drive Tanzania to get to that inclusive, robust, prosperous economy that we want.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Unajua hapa duniani mitihani haishi. So this lady is actually already quizzing me, doing another exam. So let me first of all thank Rosalind and Philip for having me here. And these are some of the companies that I respect them very much in our country. They add a lot of value. I'm personally a customer to both Mwananchi and of course to Vodacom. Every day I must read. And with Mwananchi, I'm not just a reader. Several have contributed several articles, both Mwananchi and the Citizen. And of course, Vodacom, I've been a member since I started using mobile phones. I've only used Vodacom since then. I have only one phone. That was way back in 1990. So I'm very happy to be here. But also these two companies are very important to our social and economic development. They have also collaborated with us very well during the DIRA 2050 development process. And therefore I decided to come to give them a company, even though I'm in the mid of very serious political campaigns. So you'll bear with me if somehow, somewhere in the middle of my discussion, I start talking about what is happening in Ubungo. You'll bear with me to that one. So, I mean, both, you put it very well, that in the DIRA 2050, by the way, this time we deliberately avoided the word division. So both in English and Kiswahili, the document is called the DIRA 2050. So if I use DIRA, that is the essence, but it is fine if you use TDV, still the same thing. So digitalization and digital empowerment emerges in the vision as a very important aspect, and it is both an end and a means. An end in the sense that it is actually a goal. And we put that one simply because effective today in this world, we have two worlds. We have the world in the space there, and we have the world that we know. And we thought that Tanzanians have the right to live in both worlds. They don't have to be left. So we really have to empower our people to ensure that we belong to these two worlds. A means in the sense that digitalization has become a very important, not just a tool, but a process. Even though I was reading a book a few weeks ago, quite scary, saying that the future is analog. And in that book, they're making an argument that, this digital thing is going somewhere, is going to knock, and we are going to be going back again. And they were trying to demonstrate that the Washington Times, I think, the hard copy sales are again increasing. Washington Post, I think, but also the New York Times. But I'm sure that there's going to be a good balance between the digital world and also the world that we know, which is why here he has this thing and I also have my piece of paper. So as a means from the government point of view, the thinking that we have, where traditionally people have always wanted to follow the government. So if you want a government service, you'd have to walk, find where the government office is. The world today, and what we envision in DINA 2050, is the government not just being closer to people, but actually the government following the people where they are. And that is only possible through the digitalization process. But also the way we put it on every aspect of social and economic development process, there is going to be a digitalization process. So how we do that? Number one, of course, obviously, number one is going to be access, affordably, which is why Vodacom becomes extremely very important. And we're going to be working with them closely to see how we can make access to digitalization affordable, simple for all Tanzanians. Maybe I stop there. I'm a teacher. The way I see your eyes is like, I think like I should stop. Otherwise, thank you.
Amazing. You've actually preempted my next question, because it was actually on partnerships,
Yes.
especially in ways that accelerate outcomes in finance, education, and financial inclusion. But you mentioned one thing, Honorable Nkumbo, that this DIRA, the last DIRA was TDB 2025, in our socialization and in our working areas, we called it the TDB 2025 because it's the document that really aligns all of us. You know, it's that vision. Right now you've been able to socialize it. It's the DIRA 2050. You went all over Tanzania, even kids were heard, and they had their inputs into this vision. Right here you are with your partner. They have this great infrastructure. They have built accessibility. What are other ways, right? When you look at them, what are other ways? What are those, when you look by 2050, what are those ways that you're going to really partner, move from access to driving access, to driving financial inclusion, to driving health, more better health outcomes? If you could give me like tangible ways that you're working with your partner already and ways that you're going to expand that all the way to 2050.
So there could be many ways, but let me say just one. You know, as governments, we are very good at thinking, producing things, nice documents. The partnership that we're going to be looking at is really from the implementation point of view. It is the execution. And I think this is where the private sector comes in very well. So if you read the document, the vision is going to be delivered by a number of partners, but two of those. Of course, the government is at the center, but really the private sector and our state-owned enterprises are going to be playing a very important role. So this is not just going to be collaboration, it has to be really partnership. And it will begin by changing our attitudes both ways. So the way the government thinks about the private sector, the way the private thinks about the government is going to be very important. So that the private doesn't look at the government as just a tax collector, and the government doesn't just have to look at the private sector as a tax provider. We have to see each other as playing very important roles. And of course, from where we stand as a government, we have to play a role of facilitating rather than controlling. I think where we are coming from, the government has been very, very good at controlling things. Where we are going, and if we are to realize that vision, the language has to change. It will have to be facilitating each other, and I hope we shall be able to do that.
Amazing. And what are those pro-business growth policies that you're putting in place as the regulator to ensure that now you and the private sector, who you said is a complementary to realize this vision, how is that? How does that look like?
Many things, but two. Number one, of course, is from the policy and legal framework, which is the role of the government, of course, the parliament. So the kind of policies we are going to be putting going forward, they have to be responsible, friendly, supportive to the private sector development. Which means that the law policy making process is not just going to be a realm of the government and the parliament. It will have to be a collaborative effort, just like we did in developing the Vision 2050. we worked with everybody, including the private sector. So when I was talking about here, we have engaged them very much. The private sector was at the center, not just providing opinion, but actually working with us to write the document. I can tell you the final DIRA 2050 Kiswahili version was actually written by the civil society organization, not even by our team. So the second aspect, which is key, is the infrastructure. As a government, we have to ensure that basic infrastructure is in place. Because, Vodacom and others are going to be doing a big job. But there is a central role of the government in ensuring that basic infrastructure is available, both physically and digitally, so that they're able to do their job. So this is why you can see that we are putting a lot of economic infrastructure. So issues like SGR and many others will be that one. But providing the platform is also to be an important function of the government. For example, you can't be talking about digitalization without having reliable, fast internet around. And that cannot just be done by the private sector, it has to be the government. So we really have to provide infrastructure. So policy and infrastructure are two important instruments to ensure that the private sector thrives in this country.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Prof. Now to you, Mr. Philip. You connect people for a better future, and that's something you do every day. Yeah? As we're going towards 2050, Honorable Mkumbo here has said he's putting a very enabling environment for you. How do you envision what you do? Now, I want us to look at it from a social impact, a well-being, quality of life of Tanzanians, of the everyday Tanzania. How are you going to do that? How do you envision your network doing that up until 2050 comes here and we're a $1 trillion economy?
Thank you, Zoe. I mean, first of all, I don't know if I can keep up with Professor Kitila's eloquence, because you can tell he's a teacher. And he speaks with a lot of passion. Thank you for the question, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you for making it here, and we're really privileged to have you here in attendance as we unveil our ESG report. And I think Zuena really unpacked the why really eloquently, and I believe that this is a part, or this is a journey that has got to be embarked upon by each one of us in different ways, which then takes me to your question, because I think if you look at where Vodacom started off, with 25 years, this month, and maybe the first, 10, 15 years were really about providing connectivity, because I believe to get to the point of the question where you are, connectivity is the foundation of what we needed to build for. And that meant that put the infrastructure in place, build the right capabilities, products, services, and different ways that customers can connect. I think the next stage has really been about inclusiveness. How does everybody participate? And you will see that ourselves, but also the sector at large, has diversified in terms of how ordinary Tanzanians can access, use different products, and be able to participate in the digital world in a meaningful way. I think the next part, which actually is for me maybe a segue between DIRA 2050, but also to your question in terms of social, how do we become a meaningful player, is really the innovation part. How do we then get whether it's ourselves, but also ordinary Tanzanians, to use this infrastructure, the capability that's been put in place, the policies that government has laid out, to actually be more innovative, so that this becomes more like the rails for progressive growth, for inclusiveness, for to catalyze everyday livelihood or lifestyle, whether it's health, business, education, agriculture, and so on. So I believe that we can play a meaningful role in society by actually making those industries that have traditionally been analog, rigid, inaccessible, rich to access, and exclusive, we can now actually make them open and available to everyone. And I think that's the beauty of tech, because I have severally said that it actually equalizes. It makes it available for everybody. So previously, where you had to trek miles and miles to go to a bank and open an account and be able to, and nothing, I'm not saying this because there are bankers here. I'm just saying that that was the tradition. Today, tens of millions of Tanzanians have access to financial services. For me, that's contributing to society in a meaningful way. There's a mama ntilie somewhere in Sasani on Mandazi Road who previously had to go borrow money from a daladala driver at an exorbitant rate so that they can buy their supplies to be able to make their pastries the next morning. Today, on their phone, they're able to access a loan, for example, Empower, and get up to 300,000, 400, 500,000 in a matter of seconds. Go buy their supplies, turn it into, create a product, sell that product, and pay back this loan in 7 days. After 3-4 months, after a year, this lady is actually now borrowing $1 million. After 2 years, she actually needs 5 million, and that 5 million can only be provided by a bank. So for me, that's the social contribution that we made.
Amazing. So when you speak, a round of applause for that. Yeah, that's a great innovation, and it's actually M-Pesa, it's actually a global case study when it comes to financial inclusion. What are the next frontier when it comes to M-Pesa? I mean, from what you're saying, you're already really bringing everybody into the finance, and enhancing their access to financial products. And you've diversified. You started with just, moving money, which was great because no one had a credit score. You were entering into the financial space with no credit burden. Brilliant. You've diversified. Now you have Empower, you have Mkoba, you have Songesha, all accessible, all brilliant. But what is the next frontier? What's that one thing that we should look for when it comes to M-Pesa?
No, thank you. Another brilliant question. I think now the next phase is really about deeper financial inclusion and growth. I think the basics of just transferring money from point A to point B, that although not 100% achieved, I think we are at a stage where actually many Tanzanians do have access to a form of financial service and can actually access a financial point. I think in the last FSTD report, FinScope's report, and actually I see the FSTD team here, one of the things they mentioned is that every Tanzanian now, the majority of Tanzanians now are at least within 5 kilometers reach of a formal, or let me say an active financial service point. That was providing access. Now, when we say deeper financial inclusion is, for example, being able to access trade, to access trade, to be able to, a farmer out there to be able to actually get an agricultural loan, a farmer out there to be able to sell their product digitally, get paid digitally without having to leave their farm area and travel miles and miles and miles. A healthcare professional being able to actually diagnose, or rather get a diagnosis and the prescription and complete all this and get the customer to pay real time. I think for me the next wave of financial inclusion is really how do we facilitate trade, how do we facilitate agriculture, how do we facilitate health, and those are some of the products and use cases that we're building. I read a report, I think it was an IFC report that said there's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a 30 trillion, sorry, it was a 3 trillion financing gap in the SME sector. Now, again, these SMEs are not necessarily are not necessarily people in suits and ties and whatever. This is a small business, a small pharmacy, a small, duka somewhere where they need just 500,000 shillings capital to get going. And many times they just don't have the capability, whether it's the documentation and so on, to start. I believe that mobile money services like M-Pesa are actually the gateway to this kind of financing, and that we would be able to start, we would be able to explode trade by actually giving them access to credit. Credit is a big equalizer in many, many societies, because it gives access to capital to so many people that actually don't have generational wealth to tap into. And you can actually start from there and start building a business. And I believe that, for me, that's really the next frontier of mobile money, that we can expand the economy by giving access to credit, but also digitizing other value chains that are currently cash only, and as a result exclusive or difficult to reach.
Amazing. And as you're digitizing these value chains and enabling access through connectivity, I see that you have ESG now as a main priority for Vodacom. When you looked at your report, you have plans to get to a net zero operating environment. You spoke about those waste management from the snapshot that we were able to see. You're empowering youth through education. You're working with the civil society. So you're competitive, but in a very sustainable way. How then do we, everybody in this room, yeah, the government to the private sector, other members of the private sector, the philanthropic sector, how do we leverage sustainability to enhance our competitiveness? Also considering that we want to build a competitive society, a competitive Tanzania. How does sustainability enhance competitiveness?
I believe you have to integrate sustainability into your business. It cannot be a by the way, it cannot be something that you do on the side, right? It's got to be integrated into how we do business. And today, for example, if you're to go and raise funding for businesses, even sometimes government, one of the requirements from these institutions that have money to lend or to give is that they want to see an intentional or a clear ESG strategy. So you can't have a strategy that you're not able to execute, because they've got all these criteria that they measure you upon, and they want you to demonstrate that you're actually true to the strategy that you've laid out. So one of the things we've done at Vodacom Tanzania is actually embedded sustainability into our business practices. Yes, you will see from the report that Zuena was highlighting, and from the report that we're about to launch, that they are small but meaningful steps that we've started to make. More than 80% of our network today is on the national grid. We've eliminated as much as possible the need to run on diesel generators. And the plan is really to continue converting the remainder of our network onto the national grid, and as a resilience plan, or as a fallback plan, put them on alternative sources of energy, which could include batteries or solar. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we've also started, for example, modernizing our fleet. We've started introducing, electric and hybrid vehicles into our fleet, because we've got too many teams that are on the ground. We've completely eliminated, well, maybe let me say, almost eliminated the use of paper in the business.
Can we clap for that?
Right. Thank you. In the organization, if you look at our head office, one of the things we're piloting now is again making sure that the water that we use is recycled, and we don't necessarily have to use more water that we already have in the building. I know there is a behavioral change and a culture thing we need to deal with there, because where is this water coming from? But it's one step forward, right? If you look at our M-Pesa from a recharge point of view, these scratch cards, today more than 60% of the recharges that people do are via M-Pesa. We're eliminating paper. So there's deliberate actions that we've taken as a business to try and get us onto that path. But then there's other things that we also are partnering with societies, with the community, to try and make sure that we're building on sustainability. For example, last year, or this year, as part of Twende Butiama, we planted more than 50,000 trees. Now, on the one hand, you're taking business decisions and actions, but also you're demonstrating on the ground that we actually need to deliberately look after the planet and do some actions like planting trees in this instance, we were working with one of the Mount Kilimanjaro forest restoration communities to try and make sure that the forest cover is retained. So there's many of these things, but I think to the point that Zuena made earlier on, that you've got to be intentional, however small these steps are.
Amazing. A round of applause for all the steps that Vodacom is taking. I have one last question for both of you. To you, Professor Mkumbo. What is that one critical area that public, private, and philanthropic needs to collaborate so that we can really, maximize and leverage the digital economy?
I think for me, the most critical aspect will be the trust building. It is really trust and confidence building between the two partners, so that this issue of public-private partnership collaboration, both, of course, in development as well as philanthropy, has to, I think one area that has not been happening is the issue of trust. Trust is going to be, to me, number one issue. Over the years, we have played around laws, regulations, and I think we have to make these ones easy so that we are able to begin working together. Otherwise, as I said earlier, public and private partnership is inevitable. It is very important. We are beyond those days where the government was thought of being able to do everything, including selling beers. We cannot go there. We really have to ensure that we are able to work together. If you look around here in this country, government employs less than 1 million people. But we have the workforce for this country is 32 million. So almost 90% of people who are working in this country are working in the private sector, including a good number of you are sitting in this room. We are only a few of us who are coming from the state, me and my assistant. A good number of you are coming from the private sector. So really, private-public collaboration is key in all aspects.
Thank you so much. We live in an intelligent economy, Philip. We are right at the throes of it. For the Industrial Revolution, so many changes. You are expanding 5G network in Tanzania, not just in Tanzania as Vodacom, throughout your places of operations. Now when you look at your everyday Tanzania, right, what is that one tangible change that you see happening in the life of your ordinary Tanzania by 2030 that really excites you as we move towards 2050? You see, by 2030, we'll have reached this with your facilitation, as Honorable Mkumbo put it.
It's a very tricky question. It's interesting because I think yesterday I was having a discussion with Mpoki and he asked me a similar question. And I said, I mean, obviously maybe because I'm in the world of tech and access, I think at the moment and for the foreseeable future, artificial intelligence is going to really reshape the way the world operates. And it's multi-sectoral. Nobody's going to say they're shielded from the forces and effects, or the positives or the downsides of it. And I sometimes wonder, how do you enable but also be guarded at the same time? And I think that's really going to be the tricky balancing act that government and regulators and ourselves as private sector have to play. But I really believe artificial intelligence will change the way the world operates and the way Tanzania operates. There's so many things already happening at different levels, whether it's within private business, but also, governments somewhere experimenting different things. Some of the things that Professor Kitia was speaking about, where government goes to people, in Denmark, for example, and Finland now, you can actually, they're using agentic AI on government apps and websites. And you can actually just tell the agent to, pay your bill, let's say electricity bill, or to renew your passport. And it will populate all the information for you and actually just ask you, is this accurate? Click yes, and application is submitted to Home Affairs, and within a few days, you get your passport delivered to you. You've done nothing other than just entering a prompt that you want to renew your passport, and it will pick up information from everywhere. Now imagine a world where you can actually do that even in Tanzania. I want to buy Luku, and you don't have to go onto your M-Pesa app or USSD and type all this *149* whatever hash, and then look for the number. It can do this, or it can even tell you that actually you are running a low on electricity back at home. We're going to top up for you. You usually buy 100,000 worth of Luku. Are you okay to proceed with that? And you just say yes. That's the world I imagine.
Wow. Wow, I mean, that's a beautiful world, eh? More automation means more productivity and more time for us to make impact. Thank you so much. Just to finish this conversation, one last question for the both of you. If you were to describe the defining characteristics of Tanzania's prosperous and sustainable future in 2050 in one phrase, what will it be? I'd love to start with Mr. Besimire, and then we come to you, Honorable Prof. Karibu.
For me, it would be inclusive digital prosperity. I mean, and the prof spoke very articulately, eloquently about this. Any strategy, any vision, any plans that we have, any technology that gets unleashed that is not human-centered, that does not solve for the ordinary person, the ordinary Tanzanian, if they're not going to benefit, if they're not going to thrive, progress, then it's really just a big document that's been published out there. And that's, for me, that's really what centers me, that this has got to be human-centered. Even when I was just speaking about AI as an example, if it's not human-centered, if it's not solving day-to-day problems for ordinary folks, then again, it's one of those, hairy, big things that is just going to pass us by. And that's why we've got to be able to localize and make it relevant to you and me, to the border bajaj, but the dala driver, to a professional in a government office. They must feel that they are part of it, and they must see themselves in that document, in that strategy, and in the actions that follow through. So for me, it's really about inclusion for prosperity.
Amazing. Inclusion for prosperity. This is not the first time I'm hearing you saying that, and also plugging it in, anchoring it into people-centered prosperity, people-centered development. Over to you, Honorable Mkombo.
I think I will carry on from where he left. I would talk about localization and contextualization. I think this is going to be key, because even with AI, there are universal aspects of AI that everybody has to adopt, but we have to also realize and recognize that AI is actually essential for different purposes in a different context. So in our friends in the West, they have a problem of lack of workforce. There are too many old people, and they don't have people to work, and which is why they have to go robotic. But here is the opposite. We have too many young people who need jobs, which means that our AI strategy will have to be different to ensure that we are embracing the technology as it is needed, but we embrace it in a way that does not exclude our people from their work. And there is no prosperity without people working. So I think, to me, that is critical, which is why at the moment the government is developing the AI strategy for our context, to ensure that we are able to adopt, but also use it appropriately within our context.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's really a round of applause for Honorable Mkombo. So it's really clear that's coming out that inclusive, people-centered development for prosperity. And our digital strategy needs to really center the person. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our chat. A round of applause for our speakers as they take their seats. Go back to the seats.
Just,
No. Hold on.
I think before we leave, I will not be doing justice to myself if I don't conclude by once again thanking you for having me in this very important platform. I'm so pleased that you guys are discussing DIRA 2050. The effective start date for the implementation of the new DIRA will be on 1st July 2026. So we are now very busy putting up important strategies, including the
LTTP?
Exactly.
Amazing. We
So
are here
lastly,
ready to collaborate.
I can see a lot of young people here. You know that this is a critical year. We are going to have 2 important months effective from this week. Please do engage and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hold on. Mheshimiwa Waziri, nikikutoa hapo jukwani kabla sijawapa washiriki nafasi ya kukuuliza hata swali moja, itakuwa nimewakosea sana. Naomba ikupendeze tupate if there's any questions from the audience. Mpoki, where are you? Mpoki, uko wapi?
Right here.
Twende Mpoki.
Okay, so in the spirit of inclusivity, we want to get thoughts, questions, remarks from the audience. Niliona people were taking down notes. We only have about 10 minutes, so anyone who has a question to Professor Mkumbo, to Philip Bisimire, this is your opportunity. Okay, let's start off right here. A quick intro, then right straight to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Rose Marandu from the Women Fund Tanzania Trust. Thank you, Professor, for acknowledging the work of the civil society, especially women rights organizing, in writing the DIRA 2050. And thank you, the Managing Director and CEO. I was contemplating how big your profile is, Managing Director and CEO. Philip. So I have 2 questions. One is to, not actually question, one is to congratulate you, Vodacom, for 25 years. I was a young girl from the uni when I worked with Vodacom in 2004, and that was a milestone for me back then. My career was introduced through Vodacom. So when we are talking about digital inclusion, connectivity, because mobile connectivity is a career for digital inclusion, among others. When you look at the statistics, because I want us to unpack the statistics, 80% of women, and I'll be talking about women, 80% of women have access to mobile connectivity. But when we talk about digital inclusion, only 32 million, I think, Tanzanians, according to the stats of 2019, have access to digital services. And 18% of those are women, only 18%. And those are in the major cities. So you can see the gap is still humongous and need a redress. And on top of that, digital inclusion has brought something that we also need to plan and redress, which is technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And is coming up as something that also adds into intersectional marginalization, intersectional violence to women. How is Vodacom looking at that in future? Thirdly, you have talked, I think our sister here, Zuena, talked about startups. Youth are now coding and coding, to be precise. How is Vodacom, as a private sector, prepared to outsource some of its businesses to young people? Those are taught to code and do things like plumbing and create more vibrant economies. Lastly, on impact investing. Most of the users of your services are women. And those women are not using the services for free. They are paying tax on top of the services they are using. How is Vodacom doing impact investing, for example, creating beautiful, for the lack of a better word, beautiful markets for women to do their businesses? And I think I've put a number of them, and I think those are very important for us to discuss and talk about today, as women are major customers of yours. Thank you.
Okay, so one more person. Okay. The back. That's generous of you.
Asante, habari za asubuhi. Natamani kuongea Kiswahili kwa sababu mimi ni Mswahili na nafurahi kuongea Kiswahili. Swali langu kwa Vodacom, kumekuwa kuna changamoto ya wanawake kuingia kwenye mikopo ambayo inaitwa kausha damu, chapchapu. Mikopo hii imekuwa ikiwakosti sana wanawake, na wanawake wengi badala ya kutumia mikopo hiyo vizuri, matokeo yake imefarakanisha ndoa, imeumiza wanawake wengi. Tunatamani tuone Vodacom mnakuja na jitihada gani za kuhakikisha kwamba wanawake wanapata mikopo salama, lakini pia ikiambatana na elimu nzuri ya matumizi ya fedha. Asante sana.
Okay.
Sasa Mpoki, hapa ndio ningesema ile English medium ulifanya ile. Ulipanda gari la njano, naomba umtafsirie Philip. Ghafla mic haifanyi kazi. Mpoki mjanja sana.
Well, just
ajibu hiyo. Zuena ajibu hiyo.
Mpoki, I want you first to translate.
Okay, so basically the question, loosely translated, how can women access safe loans? That's risk mitigation on loan access.
Gari la njano, oye.
I'm sure I had that right written here.
Okay, we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. I think one on women, I think it's a very, very fundamental question for us because we are, as part of our purpose, it's one of the areas that we've actually been doubling down on and trying to understand better who are our users, where are those users, what products are they using, and seeing how we can enhance our offering. And interestingly, there is a very interesting use case or product that's given us incredible insights. Mkoba, today we have almost 500,000 groups. Of those 500,000 groups, on average, it's usually about 15 plus, members in the group, if I sort of spread it across the 500,000 groups. More than 70% of the members in those groups are women. I'm not sure if there is any better proposition or than that, just to demonstrate that. And this for me is where the intersection between technology and human-centeredness comes in, right? Because we did not invent the Vicobas. They've always been there, right? What we did was bring technology and digitization, transparency, trust, ease of use to something that already existed. So where a chairman, secretary, and treasurer had keys to a box and the money went in there and no one knew how much was in, how much was taken out, and so today, 15 plus members of a group actually know how much is being invested, how much is being withdrawn, who's taking loans, who's paying back, who has not paid back, and as a result, a product like that all of a sudden has become key for women. It has become key because it's safe, it gives them the privacy that they seek, because I think, to your question, that's the other thing that we find with our women customers, that yes, much as I have a number, actually behind that number, somebody else is controlling it. The men in here, I hope we are more progressive men, and that we are not saying that I need to know what is in your M-Pesa account. I need to see how you're using your M-Pesa. A product like Mkoba has been able to do this for us. So that's what I would say with regards to that question, that we're continuously developing, and that's a good use case that can demonstrate this. I think with regards to safety, overall safety of women, there are solutions that we're currently actually deploying. One of these is a Vodacom group-led solution around safety of women, whereby we look to deploy, let me call it like an emergency services app, and we need to find something that works for non-smartphone users, where women can actually reach out in times of distress, and this call is almost like, let's say, an emergency call to the law enforcement agencies or to a center where there will be response will be released or response will be given to that particular woman. I think the third part, the other point I would actually add, with this is in terms of your question on impact investing. Look at an example of what we've been able to do with something like a Mama, right? Whereby we took technology, looked at a solution, a problem in the community, and tried to find how the two come together to solve an issue or a challenge in the community. Most of these ambulance drivers that we use in a Mama are volunteer community drivers. I live in an area and I volunteer because I now want also to contribute, or I'm purpose driven. I contribute, or I volunteer to give my time and car to the community when I'm not using it, that I can actually be a community or ambulance driver. Now, it sounds far-fetched, of course, if you're probably in the city and busy and so on, but in far-flung places where there's only 2-3 cars in a radius of 20-30 kilometers, you've got so many community members actually volunteering to drive expectant mothers that are in distress when this call comes through to them. And many mothers, thousands of mothers, have actually had either their babies saved or their lives saved because a community driver offered. And what is Vodacom doing in that space? We're providing the connectivity, we're providing the underlying infrastructure that allows for this call to be made on 115 across the country. And working with government, this initiative that started off with just emergency maternal health is now, the government is working with us and exploring how this could actually become a national emergency helpline. For me, that is impact. And I don't think there is anything really that speaks of impact better than that. The beauty of being a CEO is that I can delegate downwards. So I think the question that was asked, the fourth question, Zwena, do you want to give it a shot?
Thank you, Philip. Asante kwa swali lako juu ya mikopo kausha damu. I think kitu muhimu cha kufahamu ni kwamba Vodacom ina products and services nyingi ambazo zina cater kwa watu wote, na ndio tunazungumzia inclusion for all. Whether you are female, male, elderly, youth, as long as you are on our network, we do have products and services that cater for all. Lakini kwenye specific swali lako la mikopo, tuna products za mikopo tofauti. Kuna Songesha, kuna Mgodi, kuna mikopo ambayo inapitia Empower, kuna mikopo ambayo unaweza ku-access kupitia Mkoba, ambayo ni digital savings kwenye vikundi. Kwa hiyo, na kama tukizama Mkoba tuna vikundi zaidi ya 300,000, na kwa sasa zaidi ya 60% ni vikundi vya wamama. Kwa hiyo unakuwa kwenye kikundi ambacho ni kikundi cha wanawake, na hao pia wanaweza ku-access hiyo mikopo, lakini pia zaidi kama ni wewe kama as an individual na una credit score nzuri ambayo iko assessed na ni mteja mzuri na unalipa kwa muda, basi unaweza ku-access mikopo kupitia Songesha na kadhalika. Kama wewe ni wakala, kuna pia mikopo kupitia wakala Songesha ambayo ni floating, unaweza kuwezeshwa wewe kama wakala. I believe I believe I've answered your question, lakini sisi tupo hapa tukishamruhusu MD. Kama una swali zaidi, nipo myself, kuna colleagues wangu ambao wako kwenye room, tunaweza share with you zaidi juu ya products and services zilizopo ambazo zina cater zaidi kwa wanawake. Asante sana.
Zoe, there's just one more thing we haven't spoken about today, and as I close, hopefully, that with everything we speak about here, with all the questions, products, we're talking about women, youth, and everybody, we must never forget people with disabilities. And one thing I'm proud of at Vodacom is that we have actually started doing a lot of work in that space, whether it's for the visually impaired or people that are hard of hearing. There is solutions on how they can actually reach us for support, for access, and use our products and services. And in fact, through some design thinking principles, we're starting to bring them on board to to help us design better even products in future so that they can also access them. So yes, many times when we speak of inclusion or exclusion, we rightfully so, we speak of women, youth, you know, and some of these marginalized groups, but we should never forget people that are living with one form or the other of disabilities. Thank you.
We're not leaving anyone behind, eh?
We are not. Naomba tuwapigie makofi sana, lakini nimwombe Mheshimiwa Waziri na Philip mbaki on the stage. Let's give another big round of applause to Zoe for having moderated that fantastic panel session. Naomba tutoe viti hapo. Mheshimiwa Waziri, coming up next ni kutuzindulia sasa ripoti hii ya ESG Vodacom Tanzania, na utaizindua kwa wewe na Philip. Philip ataishika, so Philip will hold the report books, utakata utepe, alafu kwa pamoja mtainua ripoti juu na ndio tutakuwa tumeizindua. Baada ya hapo nitaomba tutambue watu ambao tumeshirikiana nao kufika hapa. Nitahesabu 5, tutahesabu kwa pamoja. Ikifika 1 tutapiga makofi, waziri atakata utepe. Twende kwa pamoja. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Makofi mengi. It is official. It is launched. Naomba makofi tena. Like that. Tunawapongeza sana Vodacom Tanzania kwa kuzindua ripoti yao. Mheshimiwa Waziri, ni kuombe sasa, kuna watu ambao tumeshirikiana nao kwa karibu sana, hata tumefikia hatua hii ya kuzindua ripoti yetu leo. Naomba nimkaribishe Zuena ukiwa hapa aje awaite hawa watu ili uweze kuwafahamu na kwa nini tuna celebrate hii milestone pamoja nao. Zuena, karibu. Baada ya hapo ni kuombe tupige picha za pamoja na kisha tukuruhusu, tuko nyuma yako Mheshimiwa. Hey. Tukuruhusu uende kule. Karibu Zuena.
I had mentioned earlier that no one entity can achieve progress or development alone. And we'd like to use this session to recognize some of our key partners that have been with us for a long period of time, and some that have embarked on a new journey and have long-term commitments with us. To start with, I would like to recognize our collaboration champion. For the last 5 years in a row, we have partnered with this entity, and this recognition honors them for bringing people together to achieve more, for championing co-creation and uniting change makers. We are part of that co-creation process as Vodacom. Earlier this year, we announced partnerships with a civil society organization with regard in empowering teachers so that they can...
Our Foundation for Civil Society. Rochangamke kidogo. Fantastic. Naomba tusimame mmoja kulia, mwingine kushoto kwa ajili ya picha pamoja. Mwingine kushoto huku, come this side. Yeah. Asante. Foundation for Civil Society, tunaweza tukarejea sasa.
Asanteni. The next recognition, Mheshimiwa, I'd like to recognize this partner who celebrates belief in long-term investments for steadfast commitment and investment that delivers lasting impact. Earlier this year, we signed a 3-year partnership with Stanbic Bank Tanzania for commitment with Twende Butiama cycling tour. Stanbic Bank, karibuni sana.
Naomba tupige makofi Stanbic Bank. Naomba team Stanbic tuje tupate mkono wa Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi na tupate picha ya pamoja na mgeni rasmi. sababu mnaliona hela jamani. Tunaomba tabasamu kidogo. Asante, Team Stanbic.
Next, I'd like to recognize our digital inclusion. In 2017, we started our e-learning platform that was able to scale across Tanzania, reach 252 schools, and more than 300,000 students can access resources online on our zero-rated platform. African Child Project for Commitment in Digital Inclusion.
African Child Project, naomba tuwapigie makofi. Karibu. Asante sana.
Under our planet pillar, we'd like to recognize a partner that honors stewardship of our planet for leading advocacy in conservation and environmental protection. We partnered with World Wildlife Fund to restore areas in Dodoma as well as here in Dar es Salaam, specifically in Pugu Road. I'd like to call World Wildlife Fund, WWF, for championing environmental advocacy.
Na anayekuja jukwani ni Country Director wa WWF, ubia wa maana kabisa huu. Tunaposema ESG, ile component environment, basi tunaiona hapa. Tunashukuru sana WWF.
Financial inclusion. This recognition highlights empowerment through finance for enabling women to thrive through access and inclusion. I'd like to present this recognition to Tanzania Commercial Bank for enabling financial inclusion for women through Mkoba.
Tanzania Commercial Bank, TCB. Naomba tuwapigie makofi. Kina mama wengi mngekuwa mnashangilia. Vema kabisa, ubia mzuri huu kabisa, tunaufurahia. Asante sana.
I'd like this recognition to a partner that has dedicated time, but also for years of service expanding digital access and opportunities. We have worked with Universal Communication Service Access Fund to enable ICT classrooms in more than 252 schools in Tanzania, but also, in addition to that, partnering them to ensure rural connectivity is taking shape in Tanzania. Mheshimiwa, I'd like to call upon the Director General of Universal Communication Service Access Fund to receive this recognition for long service in digital inclusion.
UCSAF, naomba tuwapigie makofi mengi sana. Kama Vodacom tumeweza kubadilisha na kufikia ndoto za wanafunzi wengi kupitia ubia na UCSAF. Naomba makofi tena kwao. Asante sana UCSAF.
Recognition celebrates those who empower farmers for strengthening smallholder access and transforming agriculture. Mheshimiwa, I'd like to call on the stage our Vodacom Business Unit Director, this recognition actually goes to the government of Tanzania for our partnership on Mkulima. We've been able to reach more than 3.2 million farmers and 88,000 active farmers on a monthly basis.
Vodacom Tanzania tunajivunia ubia wetu na serikali ya Tanzania kupitia Wizara ya Kilimo, wizara ya nguvu kabisa. Kama jina lake, wizara ya nguvu. Nashukuru sana.
Mheshimiwa, this is one of our biggest, or I should say, hero projects, launched in 2022, and today it is in more than 3 countries in Africa. It has transported more than 150,000 mothers and newborns and saved lives of more than 6,000 mothers and newborns. This recognition honors life-saving action for advancing emergency health responses and reducing maternal mortality rates by 38%. This recognition goes to the government of Tanzania for their partnerships on M-Mama.
Naomba Mheshimiwa mpeane mkono na Bwana Philip. Tunaipongeza sana sana na kusherehekea ubia huu kati ya Vodacom Tanzania na Nikuombe sasa tupige picha za pamoja, tuweke kumbukumbu, alafu tusikie neno moja tu kutoka kwako Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, na ndio tutakuwa tumefikia tamati. May I request the members of the high table to please join the guest of honor. Kulikuwa na QR code ilikuwa on the display, tutaiweka tena ili muweze kuscan na kupata the report that has just been launched hiyo hapo, lakini sasa hivi tuweke Vodacom, alafu baadaye tutaweka the QR code. Niombe management ya Vodacom management team, naomba tuende kwenye picha pamoja na meza kuu. Naomba Vodacom management, SMT, Vodacom Exco, tuende tukapige picha pamoja. Wakati huo naomba partners ambao wamepewa recognition asubuhi hii ya leo, tutaenda kupiga picha inayofuata, alafu team Mwananchi, alafu Vodacom team, tutakuwa tumemaliza hiyo.